What's up, everyone? Welcome to the D-Generation Y podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Alex.
Now I'm the other co-host, Mike.
There we go. Much better than last time. I don't know. I was just trying to point to you, make sure you actually knew you had to go this time because, wow, last time took a while. So before we jump into today's episode, I really actually wanted to first start off by congratulating Claudio Castagnat. I'm going to butcher nothing. Claudio, formerly known as Cesaro in the WWE, on winning his first world championship. It's been a long time coming. The fact that no other company yet before AEW / Ring of Honor has given him a world championship is surprising. So congratulations to him. It's well deserved. Glad to see it happen. I actually got to watch it a little while ago, about an hour and a half ago. So congrats.
I get Snapchats.
I was watching along on the pay-per-view Death Before Dishonor, and Mike was getting the Snapchats from me being like, I have no idea what's happening, but this looks pretty cool.
Baby to sleep.
What was that?
They're putting a baby to sleep while you're watching Ring of Honor.
That's right, yeah.
We have different lives. No.
Completely different lives. I'm spending money on pay-per-views of companies that I've never seen before, and he's being a full-on adult watching, children and things like that.
Child.
Yeah, so I think really the first thing that we probably should jump into is obviously the big news.
Barbed wire everywhere. Sorry.
Oh, that's what you would jump into? Okay, I said.
Oh, I thought that's what we were talking about first. All right, well,
we can do that. No, we'll do that. Yeah, so I mean, a couple of days ago on Wednesday Night Dynamite, AEW had their barbed wire everywhere match. I personally did a quick video on TikTok just giving my initial reactions of it. So I'll actually pass it off to you, Mike. I know you're obviously not as big of an AEW fan as I am, but having watched Blood and Guts with me about a month ago and now watching Barbed Wire Everywhere, initial thoughts and reactions on like how you thought the match went, the storytelling, all of that.
I mean, overall, I think it was I think we have like similar kind of opinions. I think what I was expecting was similar to what I think you might have even said this, or maybe I saw this somewhere, what was it, Sabu and Abyss's match? That's what I was expecting, like where it was completely replacing like the ropes. Like I wasn't a big TNA person or Impact, whatever, but I think I actually did watch that back, what was that, mid-2000s?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Something like that. So that's what I was kind of expecting. I did like the little touches where they, like you said, with like having it wrapped around the microphone and the ring bell and all that stuff. But the ending, I don't know. I felt like, because that wasn't the only match I actually tuned in for most of, I think, at least the last hour and a half or so. Because what is it, 2 hours, right?
Yeah, it's 2 hours.
So I think I got to tune in. So, and even seeing some of the other matches, I was just like, I felt like, I don't know. It just felt like watching amateurs a little bit. And that sounds terrible to say because who am I, obviously, but like and maybe just because obviously I'm just used to seeing WWE and you've said it before where AEW has had backlash with their backlash, so to speak, not pun intended, but about like their camera angles and stuff, just like covering things. And I don't know. I remember seeing something in the barbed wire match, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, if the cameraman just would have pulled away like just earlier, it wouldn't have looked so bad." Or like, but I forget what was it where we were talking about the ending, where it was just surprising to see somebody like Chris Jericho, who obviously is so well experienced, just trying to get attacked by, I think it was like an attack at the end after the bell had already rang, and he like just stood there and they just kind of like fumbled around each other, and I'm like, what the hell? It just, to see that, it threw me off. I was like, oh, that kind of, not that it ruined it for me because it was crazy. It was a crazy match, but
yeah, no, I definitely think it would bring up some good points. So, with the camera angles, I've kind of mentioned this to you before, or maybe I haven't, but even Chris Jericho personally has mentioned this, is a lot of the guys that are maybe not so much now, that a lot of like ex-WWE guys and like some Ring of Honor guys and like some Impact guys have signed there, but especially in the beginning, a lot of the guys that are in AEW are former indie stars where they're not used to having weekly television taping, right? Like, pay-per-views. They have to worry about the show. Not even so much the spectacle of the show. They don't have to worry about the camera angles. They don't have to worry about always like facing the right way. They just kind of do their thing and like feed off the crowd. So I think Chris Jericho's opponent, Eddie Kingston, he's one of those guys, someone out there, if you're watching this, correct me if I'm wrong, but Eddie Kingston has never been in a major promotion. He's never been in, obviously, WWE. He's never been in Ring of Honor or like Impact or anything like that. So he's never had to worry about those camera angles. He's working in, the not to shit on the indie wrestlers, but it's like the common like quote, I guess, is like they're working out of gymnasiums, like high school gymnasiums. They're not worried about like where the camera is. They're just worried about like, cool, this is the biggest section of the crowd. I'm going to face them and like do what I want to do. So I think that's a big part of it where, some of the things like that get missed. I think also going back to, you were mentioning Sabu and Abyss, that's definitely a big one. And then the other one that I think I referenced to you was from ECW way back in the 90s. Sabu again, because that guy is just insane.
Before I forget quickly, did you think that, was it Jericho that ended up having, that was on the ropes and it was like he landed right on his nuts or something like that? Because did you think that was like a copy from like or like maybe like a paying homage to Sabu doing the same thing? You get what I mean?
I kind of get what you're saying.
He had to go through the same thing, and it was like, oh, we're kind of mimicking ish the match because that was the last time it was done.
It definitely, I definitely could. I don't know that it necessarily was, but I can definitely see it being that, because from a U.S. standpoint only, because barbed wire matches I think are much bigger, or at least were much bigger in Japan in the 90s and 2000s. Barbed wire matches from like a U.S. standpoint, like really the quote unquote pioneer is Sabu. So like if that was the case, I think that's a really good nod to him, because like that's kind of like his thing. He's like, as I don't know if this was his nickname in ECW, because I was way too young at the point, but like the way WWE loved to put it, it was like he's the homicidal, suicidal, like maniac, like he'll do anything. So like if that is the case, that's like a nice little nod to him, especially being that Jericho and Sabu were both in ECW.
Right, Lionheart, right?
Right, exactly. He was Lionheart during his time in ECW. So I think that would be a nice little nod to him, because like, Sabu was maybe a little bit more of a veteran at that point, so it could have been like a, hey, pay homage, like I looked up to you at one point.
Right. So I'm just gonna experience the same.
Yeah, exactly. I want to experience this shot to the groin, and no typical shot to the groin. But yeah, and kind of to your point too, like overall, I did really enjoy the match. I think the story leading up to the match and the story that they were trying to tell during most of the match was really good. Some of my major disappointments of the match were, one, like you said, like the ring ropes weren't really like replaced. They were kind of just wrapped, and not even
definitely still wouldn't want to bounce on them. So.
I'm not trying to hit those at all.
Right.
But like what I was picturing was like all the ring ropes are going to be barbed wire, and they were just the regular ropes wrapped, and they still left spaces obviously so they could get in and out of the ring to do some of those other spots that they wanted to do. And my other big gripe with the match was, in my mind, again, maybe you didn't like think of it, like imagine this because you don't watch AEW as much on a weekly basis, but to me, this was supposed to be the blow off to a feud, like similar to like a Hell in a Cell or a steel cage match. It's supposed to be the last match. Never gonna face each other again, but like now you're gonna move on to like different storylines. So the fact that it wasn't truly one-on-one and you had this like these different interferences coming in, like I get AEW all about
factions and
factions.
Which is also another thing, is that they had Jericho's faction locked in the cage, but what was to stop Eddie Kingston's faction from coming in?
Well, and that's the thing, like Eddie Kingston,
especially because there was no DQ anyway, so
right, no DQ, so like nothing to stop Eddie Kingston's friends from coming in. I guess the difference is like, one, Jericho's faction are supposed to be the heels, they're the bad guys, so they're more likely to jump in type of thing. Right. But also Eddie Kingston doesn't really have a
I thought that was another thing, they couldn't find the key and they just squeezed it.
Like, you could have probably done that the whole time and just dangled and dropped down. Like that's like, not to get too off course, but that's like another gripe with like some of AEW's matches, and like especially their barbed wire matches. This is now the second barbed wire type of match that they've had to do, where there's been stuff that's kind of like gone off the rails, where it's like, all right, these guys could have easily escaped the cage the entire time because they fit through the bars. The other one was, I think I sent you the Snapchats of it like a year ago. It was John Moxley, formerly Dean Ambrose, and Kenny Omega facing off for the world championship there. And it was supposed to be an exploding barbed wire death match, which was overall a great match. Like basically anytime they hit the barbed wire, it would cause a little explosion and give them a shock, which was pretty cool. But then the end of the match was supposed to be the entire ring exploding, and all it was a little puff, and then that was it. So it was like, all right, someone in pyro really messed up here. So I like, I guess the last point of this piece is I like what AEW is trying to do, trying to be a little bit more violent, trying to be a little less mainstream by having these barbed wire matches. I think they just need to perfect the craft a little bit.
Yeah. Work on the basics first.
Exactly. Like
one of those
yeah,
crawl before you or walk before you run.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Again, who are we saying this?
who are you saying this? We're just two schmucks out here having a good time talking about this. They're obviously the professionals, but yeah, I think as a fan, it's tough to watch some of those things when you set such high expectations for these match, and then to some extent they can fail to deliver.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, it's the outside of AEW, the other big news that I think we want to jump into is everything that happened yesterday, both with the Vince McMahon news and then the reports of Brock Lesnar. So again, I know I mentioned this quickly on TikTok earlier tonight, but definitely, regardless of everything that's been going down the past few months with Vince McMahon, really, I think everyone within the professional wrestling industry or sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, I don't care, kind of owes a big thank you to Vince McMahon, because if it weren't for his innovation of getting out of the regional...
Sports entertainment wouldn't be what it is today without,
exactly, yeah.
Regardless of, yeah.
You can tell, you can say he's a terrible person all you want. I'm not going to agree or disagree with you necessarily. Everyone has their own opinion. Everyone has their own either personal or outside experience with him. But yeah, professional wrestling would not be what it is today. WCW, ECW in the 90s would not have needed to be what they were if it weren't for him. And then even today, Ring of Honor, Impact, AEW. Again, my mentioning of this is specifically for
WWE, with obviously because of Vince, had set the bar. So that's why all these other organizations, promotions, whatever you want to call them, have been trying to compete against to beat WWE.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it hasn't happened.
What? You and I, obviously growing up, and even today, we're obviously big fanboys. So anybody listening, take it with a grain of salt.
Right.
Like we said in the last episode, this is just our opinion. Don't come at us. It's just the way we view it. Professional wrestling, sports entertainment is what it is because of Vince McMahon, and again, say what you will about them, because of his children as well. They're ultimately going to be the ones that take the torch, whether it's Triple H, aka Paul Levesque, Stephanie McMahon, or if Shane McMahon gets brought back into the fold. They are, quote unquote, the first family of professional wrestling. The industry is what it is in the U.S. because of them. I'm going to exclude specifically New Japan and the Japanese promotions and Triple A down in Mexico, because those are different, different styles, different things. But the U.S. professional wrestling is what it is because of that. Yeah, and then obviously the big news that very closely relates to that is apparently yesterday there was a risk of Brock Lesnar not appearing at SmackDown because he was so pissed about hearing the news that Vince McMahon retired. He's previously said in interviews that him and Vince have obviously a love-hate relationship. He went into WWE, had a quick 2-year stint, and then kind of left because he was unhappy with the organization, but came back. But he's also said he views Vince as a father figure, so it kind of makes sense. It's oh, Vince is gone, well, I'm gone too. He's the reason I am who I am. I've seen over the past 24 hours a couple of one specific recent comparison, and then I'm going to bring up one historical comparison that I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on.
Your historical comparison is what I'm thinking.
I have a feeling it is because you and I are always on the same thing.
This person also bald.
Yeah. So we'll jump to that. Granted, he ended up. Granted, Brock Lesnar ended up showing last night to SmackDown. He came back. It's still going to be interesting to see what comes of SummerSlam and the Last Man Standing event match that he's supposed to have with Roman Reigns. But had he not shown up, I wonder how the WWE and the executives would have handled it. Would it have been similar to Vince coming out on live television, Raw, 18 years ago, 19 years ago, saying Steve Austin took his ball and went home, which is funny because that's also an event related to Brock Lesnar. Which I like. It's actually just now as I'm talking, I realized that event
was it King of the Ring? No,
because King of the Ring. Basically, Stone Cold necessarily didn't have an issue with losing to Brock. It was just he was pissed that it was like there was no hype up to the match. It was just gonna be like, hey, we gave you 24 hours notice. It's Brock, Steve Austin, and you're losing. It's like
that's kind of actually how I felt like they were treating with Ronda.
Okay.
Like, because obviously where I am right now with catching up in 2018, she has her first match ever tag team with Kurt against Stephanie and Triple H, and they win obviously, and everybody's like whatever. So okay, it makes sense. Nia wants to challenge her because she's the champion at the time and they're making a bigger deal about her. But the entire time, what was kind of silly is that the entire time Ronda's like, oh, I don't want any special treatment. I don't want any like that was her whole like shtick, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Clearly that was special treatment, like because you were gonna win in your first match. And granted, I don't know if you know what happens in it, but I'm thinking to myself the whole time, like, if she wins this match, this is her first one. Like, I would be okay if, like, maybe she came back and, like, had a rematch against Nia. But I was like, that's kind of almost disrespectful to Nia, like, to have her who's more experienced. And yes, okay, Ronda's, UFC, but also that inexperience really should have played out more, I felt like. And I felt like if they were to just continue that match, they probably would have just let Ronda win. I mean, maybe whatever. They had their plans, but that's what it was looking towards.
I think. Yeah,
it's like the same similar treatment to Brock. It was like he came in and he just gets what, like, okay, they're a big star, but how does that feel to the rest of your superstars that were also big stars and also very well experienced in what they're doing, and then just have somebody come in and just because they were a big star and elsewhere, they can learn just like that and become just as experienced.
And I think that kind of goes to what Austin's point was back in
right. Yeah.
Like, hey, I have no problem losing to the new kid. It's just like let him, and I don't care. Like he didn't care that it was like a King of the Ring match or whatever. It was more of just like, hey, you're not going to try to make money off this situation. Like I'm one of your top stars and you're going to have the guy beat me. Make it be in the semifinals of the King of Ring, actually at the pay-per-view, like have 3 weeks of build up.
And that's what I'm saying. That's literally what they did with like Nia and Ronda. It was like, yeah, okay, they had their little things where she could prove that she could do lock in her armbar or whatever. But it was her first ever singles match and she was going to win.
Right.
Granted, again, she didn't. But they made it. I feel like again, it was disrespectful to Nia because it's like,
right, you're the quote unquote veteran at that point.
She's a veteran, and not only just a veteran. Like Austin wasn't the champion at the time. She's the champion in her brand. So like, and you're just gonna come in your first singles match and show off like that. I mean, I get wanting to promote her, but
yeah, and I think
defense of your top stars is kind of silly.
And that's the hit. I guess that's like kind of the hit or miss of bringing in stars from other industries and like having them either look strong or even potentially win matches against guys.
That's what I'm saying. Make them show, like have it as a showcase. The show that they can do it, but to have them win on their first in a champions match.
Yeah, and I think the champion, because where I was kind of going, I think the champion match takes it to a whole new level. I was even thinking of what we're getting very much off like topic.
But it was just this comparison to me in my mind, like a similar comparison as well. But I mean,
screw the topics. I don't care that we're getting off of it. Like I think it's a very fair and good conversation because what I was thinking of too is as you were saying that it's. I know you like hate the guy almost to your core to an extent. Like this year's WrestleMania, Logan Paul coming in, never having wrestled the match. Like he's this YouTube star and he did the boxing thing for a little while, whatever. But like he comes in, he tags with the Miz against the Mysterios. And like, I don't want to speak for them. I don't know, but like I would hope he got permission from like from Ray, but like, he's going on the top rope, he's doing the Eddie shimmy, like he's doing the frog splash and all that. It's like, so it's like even there, it's a similar concept. Like, yeah, Logan Paul is this huge star, like that's great, like people love him, but you're gonna have him come in his first match at WrestleMania of all places, no less. You're gonna have him steal this iconic person's moves, and like then I'm pretty sure, Miz and Logan Paul won the match too. So it's just like this mentality of like, that's like,
can you pick 2 of the 3, not all of them? You're respectful. You got the moves, and you won.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like if you're gonna do the shimmy and hit the move, like, fine, whatever, lose. Or if you're gonna win and do the shimmy, have the move reversed, like have Ray put it up or something like that. Yeah. No, I 100% get what you're saying.
But at the same time, like I don't know.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a business. You're doing what you.
If it's going to create a controversy and have people talking,
exactly,
that's the whole point anyways.
That's going to bring money to the business, because I'm sure at the end of the day, like this is way before our time, like even people like Mr. T coming into WWE at the first WrestleMania, like that, I'm sure at the time that was controversial. Like, oh, what is this actor coming in here doing this, this thing for? Like, what's the deal with that?
I mean, it's a similar thought to, we were talking about this the other week with David Arquette.
That's
granted, he really tried to prove himself alive.
That's the thing. Like at the beginning, he was in that scenario, but I will give all of the credit in the world to David Arquette, because he's had to take shit for 20 plus years, being like, "You're not a professional wrestler. You didn't deserve to be the world champion of this top company." So he was like, you know what? You're right. I wasn't a professional wrestler. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to wrestle and prove that I deserved it. Or at least
WCW was being ran, though. I felt like that made sense, that a movie star was champion.
The way it was, yeah. Like at the time, WCW was going down the drain. They were trying to get as much attention as they could.
Yeah.
And that was also, I feel like we've talked about this, but I can't remember if you've seen it or not. That was also around the time that they were promoting the movie Ready to Rumble. And he was one of the stars of that movie, so it was kind of like, it also made sense. To an extent. The other thing, I guess there's 2 other things I was going to bring up with Brock almost not showing up. The one more recent example that I think you'll be more familiar with is, obviously, had he not come back and he had just walked out, a lot of people over the past 36 hours have been comparing him to Sasha and Naomi walking out because they didn't agree with the direction that the company was sending them. So it's a little bit different because Brock wasn't getting sent in a particular direction. He was just unhappy with something that was happening.
So that was the full story with Sasha and Naomi? They just didn't like the direction that their characters were being put in? Or is that the story that was like released? That
was the story that was released, and I think maybe they've commented on it. I didn't pay too close attention to it. Nothing against Sasha or Naomi. I just, I was obviously at the time focused on like a bunch of different things. But yeah, basically they were told one thing of like, hey, here's how your next storyline is going to go. This is how it's going to work. If you don't like it, kind of too bad, kick rocks. So they were like, all right, well, we'll go kick rocks then and peace out. And now Sasha's
coincidentally that.
What was that?
And it was just a coincidence with the timing then, I guess.
Timing in terms of,
because didn't like the whole Vince scandal kind of happen right after?
Oh, yeah. I guess it did. It happened like somewhat after.
Well, I feel like a lot of people were like speculating like stupid things.
I'm sure they were, yeah. I personally, I don't think there's any relation. I think it was like 2 completely isolated events that just kind of happened. But yeah, it was kind of just a situation of, we don't like where you're going, we want to change it, and they think, I'm going to give a throwback, they think they're Hulk Hogan and they have creative control where they can actually make those kind of statements, but that doesn't exist as, I don't want to say it doesn't exist anymore, but it doesn't exist as much. So it kind of led to them walking out. And what a lot of people were hoping was, if Brock didn't show up last night, they were hoping it was going to be a similar situation where either Michael Cole or Pat McAfee got on the mic, because they did this for Sasha and Naomi, and like they wanted them to announce like, hey, Brock let all of you down, Brock let us down, Brock let the WWE universe down. But then at the end of the day, he did end up showing up, which is good, good on him. Like, he was pissed, he left. I don't know what the full story is. In my mind, I'm thinking him being as close to Paul Heyman as he is, even though he's not, part of Paul Heyman's thing in the storyline right now. I can picture Paul Heyman going to it like, Brock, don't be dumb. Like, come back. Like, here's the deal. Like, yeah, Vince is out, but like, whatever. So I can imagine that being part of what brought him back. And he ended up, I saw some clips. I didn't watch the episode last night.
He just thinks he's going to be treated like the rest of the A-list superstars and not like the Brock Lesnar that he's always been treated.
That's a very good possibility. That like could have been what ticked him off again. He has, the hate, the love.
I don't know. It sounds like he's changed though a lot over the years, so I have no idea what is.
Yeah, that's what you can kind of hope. But yeah, and then I think,
is he still refusing to take pictures with fans?
I wouldn't be surprised because like I've seen him give interviews where he's very, I don't want to say antisocial, but like he's similar to me where after he has a social interaction, he needs to go home and not like deal with people for a while. So him not
like if you just never liked social interactions.
You're not wrong, but that's a whole different
and wanted to just kill everybody just for saying hi.
You're not wrong. That's a whole different story.
We have 6 minutes left.
Yeah, well, we'll get that in a second because we can fix it. But the other thing I was going to bring up, another recent interaction actually outside of WWE that's similar to the Brock situation last night because of the fact that Brock came back. I know you've seen it because of my Snapchats and because of TikTok, but MJF also had left the building of AEW, or quote unquote left the city of AEW. No, before the whole pipe bomb.
Oh.
So the weekend before he cut that pipe bomb promo, he was scheduled to have a match against this guy Wardlow, who was previously in his faction, and like the storyline was like he owned Wardlow's faction or whatever. So Wardlow had to beat him in order to like be free of his personal contract and like actually work for AEW. But MJF was so pissed off at everything that was going on with AEW and the owner, Tony Khan, that he was reported to have actually flown out of the city where the pay-per-view was taking place. So there was like a lot of speculation of like, oh, well, what's going to happen? Like, is MJF going to come back for this pay-per-view? He ended up coming back. He quote unquote did the job for Wardlow, had the match, lost it, and then cut the promo the next night, and then hasn't been seen on TV since. So I hope this isn't the case with Brock. I hope he comes back, but it could end up being one of those situations, like he did what he needed to do. He'll quote unquote do the job, but then he'll never be seen again in WWE.
So MJF is just done now in AEW anyways?
Yeah, so he's technically under contract, I think, for like another year or two. It's until like 2024, so like a year and a half, depending on the month. But he hasn't been seen on AEW television, and I haven't personally looked, but to my knowledge, he's been taken off of their website. Like he's not even listed as like an alumni or anything like that. So like it's kind of like hey, you're under contract, so good luck trying to work anywhere else. But we're also not going to put you on TV. So have fun like losing all of your traction. Yeah, but also 1 second. All right, so
we're back.
Jump into a couple quick segments of guess this poorly described wrestler. I'll go first, giving some of my hints. So, Mike, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, this individual was part of a tag team.
Part of a tag team. Bubba Ray Dudley.
Definitely not Bubba Ray Dudley.
All right. Male or female?
Male. All right.
That's one. Okay.
This person has never won a singles title.
Fandango.
That was actually a pretty good guess. It's not Fandango though, or Fandango.
Oh no, I think he probably did win something in NXT, a singles maybe.
No.
But either way, all right. So did they win a tag? Did this person win a tag title? They've never won a singles title.
They did win a tag team title.
Okay.
They think they can sing.
Oh, you probably want me to think of this person. Shoot, what's his name? Rusev Day. Shoot, what's his name? It's not Gentleman Jack. It's
I'm surprised you know Gentleman Jack. That's impressive.
I don't know why that's because I feel like they have a similar gimmick. He was part of the Vaudevillains, right? What's his name?
Oh.
Do you know who I'm trying to think of?
I know who you're thinking of. I'm just not saying if it's him or not. Do you want to pass?
No, because it's probably him. Trying to like think of I'm playing the entrance in my head right now to see if he. Shoot. Oh man. I can't think of his name. Rusev. I don't know. Go ahead.
It's not. It's not.
I know it's not.
What's your next, like?
Was he a part of the Vaudevillains?
Was part of the Vaudevillains.
All right, go ahead.
All right. They think they're old school.
It's like Johnny. No.
I think my last hint is gonna give it to you because you're so close.
I know, I can see it. He's like balding. He almost has like hair like my papa used to, where he had like no hair on the top.
Yeah.
I can't think of his freaking name. I'll pass this one, I guess, and you can give me the last hint because I know who it is. I just can't.
The last hint is he's English.
Oh, yeah, that's why I was like, oh, it's like Johnny English or something like that, or Jordan. No, it's not Jordan. It's something like that. Son of a gun.
You're so close too.
I know. I can see it. I just can't think of his name.
I'm gonna have to give you like a time limit. I'm gonna give you like 10 more seconds.
Okay, that's fine. That's fair.
I never thought we were gonna have to do a time limit. It sucks too because like I know you know who.
I know because he was the Vaudevillains, and he wasn't the one that was wearing the traditional,
the strap. Yeah.
He was shoot. It's gonna whatever.
3, 2, 1. Any guess?
Whatever. Go ahead. I'll take the L.
It's Aiden English.
You were Johnny English.
I'm actually impressed because I'll like halfway give it that to you because you knew that he was part of like the Rusev Day and like all that other stuff. I thought like all of my hints and I switched up the order, but like I thought my hints were going to stump you. So like the fact that you could picture it was actually impressive. So I'll give that to you.
I knew exactly what it was after what was that third hint too?
The singing.
Yes. It's because the Gentleman Jack, I had the J sound. I don't know.
Got it. All right. That was good. That was good.
That was. Is it my turn now?
Yeah, your turn for it. Yes, that poorly described.
All right. This superstar was almost married on TV.
Almost married on TV. Billy Gunn.
Nope.
All right, male or female?
Male.
Okay.
This person has also had multiple names. Within the WWE. I'll even give you that one.
Okay, so multiple names in WWE. Almost married. Almost married in WWE. Not Billy Gunn. It's not Chuck Palumbo, right?
Nope.
Okay. Was it a male-female marriage?
It would have been a male female. It would have been a man married. He would have been marrying a female.
Okay.
He has been a world champion.
Kane.
No.
Okay. World champion. WWE champion or world heavyweight champion?
Neither.
Okay.
So then my next hint is that He has also been in 3 separate promotions. So in addition to WWE, he's been in 2 other organizations.
Okay.
I can give.
No. That you don't need to, because I don't give it too much. So almost.
I didn't think I was gonna get you this stumped.
WWE. So they were world champion. They almost married. Test.
Nope.
Okay.
So do you want me to repeat your 4 hints, the 4 previous hints before you ask your next question?
Yeah. So what are the hints?
So was almost married on TV, has had multiple names, has been a world champion, and has been in 3 separate promotions.
Okay.
And I'll elaborate that. No, I guess it doesn't really matter. I was going to say when he was almost married, it was in his first name within WWE.
His first?
Like the first version of him.
Yeah.
Or first character of him.
Someone that was a world champion and switched characters after.
But they weren't a world champion in WWE.
Oh.
Because you just said the 2 world champions in WWE, and I said it was neither.
Okay, I was thinking ECW champion.
Oh, sorry. Well.
No, it's not.
You can elaborate it even more. Okay, so you can
right,
ask your 4th clarification question.
Yeah. So all right. Active in the 90s?
No.
Or like world champion in the 90s?
No.
No.
Yeah, world champion in 2010s.
Oh, okay. All right. So final hint.
And then your final hint. He was a tag team with Fandango. And I know exactly who I want you to think.
So it's obviously not Tyler Breeze, because that's who you That's the tag team has to be outside of WWE. I don't fucking know. Samoa Joe.
No, is that your final guess?
No, don't I get one more clarifying question?
Oh yeah. Sorry. All right. So clarification question.
All right. So was this person in the tag team with Fandango in WWE?
Yes.
Oh, he goes by EC3 or
No, that's it. I was thinking of EC3.
EC3. Okay, cool. That's who it was. Yes. What's his NXT?
Bateman.
Derek Bateman. That's what it was.
I didn't think you were gonna get that. I gave you a lot of clarification now, but that's fine. I thought I had you. I thought I fully had you now.
You did. I had to think because I remember Bateman and Fandango before he was Fandango.
What was I couldn't think of Fandango's name before.
I can't think of it right now either, but I forgot that because I remember the 2 of them in their previous characters before Fandango and before EC3. I remember them feuding, but I forgot they were a tag team for a second. Yeah. That's actually really good. I like that. That was good. Oh man, shit. Damn, that was this close to happen.
I know. I didn't think you were gonna have that one.
Wow. Okay. Where was he? Oh, he was TNA World Champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what
I had to Google that one.
That makes sense. Yeah, I forgot. The only reason I know he was. And
he's currently in Ring of Honor. It says.
Yeah, he's like in a weird situation right now because
where it's like you're creating your own path or whatever, choosing your own path.
Him and he's not the same anymore, but him and Braun Strowman started their own company called Create Your Narrative, where they're trying to start their own company, Create Your Own Narrative. Yeah, so it's EC3 and Braun Strowman, whose real name is.
You guys need commentators?
Yeah, if you guys are listening, if you guys need commentators, we're kind of funny sometimes, or at least so. Wow, that was. I'm impressed. That was really good. I liked that.
I've always been a Bateman fan. I thought he was pretty good. And then when he came back as in NXT,
not for you. He's back at this point, yeah, because he shows up in in early 2018, right?
That's what I was saying, because he had that little thing with Velveteen Dream.
Oh, we were just talking about that earlier tonight too. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and
that's why I was like, oh, I don't know if he's gonna get this, but
that's right. And then the person, I can't remember what her name was, but he was almost supposed to marry. He he was in like the love triangle, right?
Yeah.
Him, whatever Fandango's name was at the time, and the chick, it was like the love triangle.
Yeah, I remember. Why can I?
It was like,
is her name like Mandy? No.
No, it was funny because it was like the time period of NXT when
It was
NXT,
like a game show.
it was like right after. It was like that weird transition period. Like NXT was the game show, and then it was like sort of its own like own brand, but before it became its own brand.
Sort of. I think what was it? Fandango was a part of it when it was part of a game show, right? Like was it season 2 or something like that?
So was Derek Bateman. They both were.
Oh, they both were.
They were both part of their own season. Then they came back for that. Like,
I feel like none of the females superstars from the early NXT years. I guess Paige, obviously.
She was never part of the game show.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Who were there any females that came out of the game show version of it?
Not Emma. Who was the chick that had the blonde hair with the black highlights?
I love Emma.
You know, she was
she was friends with like AJ, Caitlyn.
Yes, Caitlyn. She was on the female version of the game show.
That's right.
And she essentially
she was the winner, wasn't she? The first one.
I don't know if she won.
Or did they not have like winner, female, male winners?
No, you're thinking of Tough Enough. You're thinking of
that's what I'm thinking of Tough Enough. Yeah.
No, for NXT, there was only one season where they did females, and Caitlyn was part of it. I don't think she won though, but she ended up. She left. I don't know. I think she went to Impact at one point.
She was Divas champion, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. She had like a few months as Divas champion.
Is AJ still around doing anything?
No,
she's married to CM Punk, isn't she?
AJ is married to CM Punk. She's retired now. There was speculation of her coming back last year when CM Punk came back, but then nothing.
As in like AEW?
No, it wasn't necessarily with AEW. It was just like because like after she left WWE, she hasn't wrestled since. Like she never went to she hasn't gone to the Indies or any other company. So there was just speculation of her coming back to wrestling in general because CM Punk came back. But there was no like specific company. But then, at least as of now, there's nothing that's like materialized where she's come back.
It'd be cool to see her like come back in over a Rumble or something. I feel like that the crowd would kind of go crazy for that, even if it's just like one of those one-off stints.
Like a one-off. Yeah, I'd be interested to see the potential of the business opportunity there, and maybe now that Vince is gone, it'll be a little bit different. But like obviously with CM Punk having that huge blow-off with WWE, that was part of ultimately why she left WWE. Like she didn't have the personal issue with them, but it's like you fired my husband on our wedding day. Why would I want to keep working for you? Yeah, so like he had been off TV for a while already, and Vince has come out and said like it was a coincidence or all obviously gonna like try and save face a little bit. But yeah, CM Punk got served his like termination papers or faxed his termination papers on his wedding day to AJ Lee. So it's like I'm not neither of us are big fans of CM Punk, but like I'm even on his side a little bit. Like you don't fire someone on their wedding day. That's kind of like that's crossing a bit of a line.
That's something that they'll always now remember.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like no matter
blemish on there.
It's hard to make that a little bit.
Well, it's gonna be interesting seeing how things are with Big Vin. Oh, retired now.
Biggie Vin. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So just because we were speaking of and AJ, one thing I know you and I have talked about a lot off screen.
I really want to like him. I really do. I
haven't even asked the question yet. You don't even know where to go.
Even his entrance, like music, there's just everything I enjoy. For some reason, he just starts talking, and I'm just like, oh God.
Oh, okay, so let me back up. So for anybody listening, we're talking about AJ Lee. We're talking about AJ Styles. Mike over here is not
neurotic.
Biggest
neurotic.
Is neurotic. Not the biggest fan of AJ Styles. So
for no reason at all. I will say, I know it. I know I'm crazy.
At least you know. But so backing it up.
The first step is admitting, right?
That is
acknowledging. I don't know, accepting.
Something like that. Acceptance, yeah.
I usually don't get past the first one anyways.
No, so backing it up. So you actually like his. So unless I misheard you, so you like his entrance. You like his.
I like his entrance. I like his I like the whole, and I like the music. I love Georgia.
You love Georgia.
From Georgia, right? What else? His moves are cool. I like the phenomenon. I don't know. Maybe it's just about, and again, my crazy neurotic thoughts were how initially, as soon as I heard the phenomenal one, I was like, "Are you though?" And then, and then again, maybe, and that's just me being, as we said earlier, WWE fanboys, and it's like, WWE is the bar. So if you are this phenomenal, why has it had it taken you so long to get there? And then obviously the whole phenom thing, where I was telling you again, that's still me being neurotic, where it's like, okay, you're going to say you're phenomenal. So in my mind, the only other person that goes as close to saying something like phenomenal is the phenom. And I'm like, are you on par with Undertaker? No, not at all. So why are you going to make this claim? I don't know. I think he's good. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, again, like, I mean, I think your point of like being the like WWE fanboy, like, I think that's fair. Like, honestly, not having seen some of his other work, and not to say that I'm an expert in AJ Styles, but like, we talked about last time how my main period of watching wrestling in general, not just WWE, was like late 05 to the early 2010s. So at that time, I had no idea who Ring of Honor was. So my main thing was WWE was Monday Night Raw on Monday, ECW on Tuesdays, Friday Night SmackDown on Fridays, obviously, as it says. And then the other day of the week that I would watch wrestling was, I think it was Wednesday nights. Maybe it was Thursdays at the time. I can't remember. But I was watching Impact, which was
I think that was Thursday.
Yeah, so it was Wednesday. So it was TNA's weekly show. So I was watching AJ Styles go off against other guys that I kind of knew because of WWE. So I was watching him go against Sting. I was watching him go again. I was watching him have
fucking. So you had the background, and it could be the way WWE also showcases him, because I feel like, yeah, he does have some great moves, but it's like, and I guess it's similar to what everybody does, but you have people like John Cena or like Randy Orton, who I feel like they try to throw in, and those are the people that I'm like, okay, and Undertaker too. I mean, even seeing him walking the ropes at his size, it's like, okay, those are people that I'm like, yeah, those are top notch. And it's like, he does like his combo that he does, I think it's great, but it's like you do the same combo and it's like the same set every single time, where it's like and then he turns around and hits, and it's like, switch it up. I know you have more something in your like arsenal, I'd assume, if you have that, right? Like,
so now I gotta stop you there, because I'm a big John Cena fan, but
I'm not a big John Cena fan. Well, actually, I'm not a not big John Cena fan, but all right, go ahead.
So here's where I'm going, because you're mentioning AJ Styles like hitting the same like combo and sequence of moves every match. I was personally, not so much now, but I was personally a big John Cena fan when I was like into it when I was younger.
When we were younger, yeah, same. But I think he's a little,
No, but if you go back to the mid 2000s and watch John Cena's matches, every match when he's about to win, he'll throw a guy against the ropes, catch them, swing them around, side slam, have them come up, throw them down again, do a quick 5-knuckle shuffle, they'll bounce up, and then he'll hit them with the FU every single match. So it's funny that
what I meant by, right. So what I meant, and I guess I should have maybe clarified, it's more towards his later career, or where he was full-time later. If that, so where he was trying to throw in all these extra things, where it's like, yeah, because people were like, you can't wrestle. So he started doing all these things to show like, okay, at least and that's where I'm like, okay, at least he was trying. Yes, he got to that level because he was obviously, the showman for a while. And then obviously he was the face, and people liked him, and obviously kids, we all did, gravitated towards his character because, it's easy to cheer for. But yeah, I got to a point where I'm like, I'm tired of seeing John Cena do the same shit too. Yeah. And I'm tired of seeing him in the same kind of matches for the top tier. Like, let's see somebody new. But what was nice in his defense was that at least he tried to switch it up a bit. Where I'm like, okay, yeah, he recognized that that's all he was doing, and I'm like, okay, well maybe that.
Sure.
And granted, it's only now a couple years into me watching AJ now, where I'm at 2018. So maybe he will. I don't know. But and again, it could also be how they. I know I would assume that some of the matches are somewhat, somewhat scripted in the sense that they rehearse them or certain portions of it. I can't imagine they rehearse the entire single match every single time because that sounds exhausting, but maybe they do. But that's what I mean. I don't know. Maybe that's just them. It's poor showcasing. But then sometimes it's like, it's really not his moves. I really just think for some reason when I just hear him talk, I'm just like, oh. Just gets under my skin, and I get like that with certain people, and I'm sure people get like that with me.
It's like I'm wondering, is it the way he like presents himself when he talks, or is it more of a Southern accent, or like?
Well, I don't think it's an accent thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. I
really have no idea, and I feel, and I do this with people sometimes. They random people for no reason. I just get a sense, and it's like, oh.
Oh no, I mean, trust me, I'm right there with you. I said it the other day, like I think it was yesterday actually. I said,
right, that one person.
Where it's like, I actually agree with this guy in this particular moment, but for no legitimate reason, he just particularly bothers me.
Yeah.
I can't explain why. It's just one of
no, yeah, that's exactly how it is with AJ. And I want to like him. I really do.
And the main reason I wanted to like bring this up and like talk about it on screen or on camera is because
so that you can like randomly track me down and yeah, okay.
Not even. No,
if anybody watches this, like any superstars, whatever, me talking about Brock and then AJ.
No, but legitimately, the reason I wanted to bring this up on camera was because I know we've had like texting conversations where you're saying like, oh, I don't know why, but I don't like him. And I was wondering now that you're like almost a year ahead of me at this point because you've been like breezing through stuff with your different like strategies. With where you're at with AJ having been WWE champion for almost a year. I was wondering if that like had maybe started to change your opinion or if it was truly just like one of those things you don't have a logical reason and it's just like, I
just
don't
being neurotic. Yeah. I also felt like Shinsuke should have at least beaten him once.
Oh, like in like the WrestleMania series and stuff?
Yeah, they had like 4 matches and I get that there was the matches where it came out as a draw, but it's like, okay, yes, I'm saying AJ didn't beat him either, but to not have won. I mean, I don't know, but it could go to your whole concept where I think we were talking about last time, where I think we were saying that, right? Was it that you were saying that Shinsuke should have been champion, but because he had like broken English or something like that, but Asuka got it.
I thought that's where you were. I thought you were going. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know if we talked about that in the last episode, but I know you and I have had that discussion. Yeah. I was saying
I'm crazy then in this aspect.
I don't remember when we talked about it, but we definitely have. It wasn't Shinsuke. I was saying I think Cesaro. Again, big shout out to him for winning ROH World Championship. I think the big reason WWE never made him either WWE or Universal Champion was because of his broken English. So I can imagine a similar attribute being for Shinsuke is like, they let him be NXT champion for like almost a year and like all that good stuff. Or maybe it was over a year, I can't remember. But I'd imagine they never let him be champion of one of the main roster pages because of the broken English, which is, I can get it, like you're an American company, but you're also supposed to be billed as this international company. So let someone with broken English do it. Because like, granted, Jinder Mahal has pretty good English. Because I don't know where he was born. I'm not gonna pretend to know where he was born, but like being billed as this person from India and stuff. So like they let him do it. They let people like the Iron Sheik do it.
Yeah. It's like when it's convenient to them to build relations, that's when it happens.
Exactly. So
at least in my
like at least it looks like
that's how it appears.
Yeah. So I think that's a fair point that you bring up, that like maybe they didn't have Shinsuke win any of those matches for the championship. So like, oh, he can't cut the greatest promo because it sounds messed up, but it's an unfortunate thing, and especially in the States, like we can't understand him, so we don't care about his promo. And I think one of the things that I saw recently too that I haven't brought up to you is Shinsuke, especially in like New Japan, had a really great character, and he was built up to be one of the best wrestlers in the world. And they started to do that a little bit when he was in NXT, but then after he got promoted to the main roster, and as time went on, I think you'll start to see it now that his series with AJ Styles is over. They really start to water him down and like increase his value. They've kind of ruined him, which is a big knock that happens a lot with WWE. They'll bring in these huge stars from like overseas or from other companies. Like, you know, you could call it like big fish in a small pond. Like, I think Bobby Roode is a great example of it. Like, he was one of TNA's top guys, comes into WWE. He's been there for a few years now, but it's kind of like, well, what has he done? Like, what has WWE done to him? They don't know how to utilize guys that they haven't built themselves.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Which kind of sucks. It's like you're supposed to be, you're promoting yourself as like the top company in the world, but
they kind of, I feel like they do that with other people though. They did it perfectly with AJ Styles.
They did, which it's
like, to your point, it's just a matter of if they can.
It's funny. They did do it with AJ Styles, and I agree with you there. Like, they kept him a star in WWE.
And they did. I mean, technically, they did let Stone Cold too.
That's true. Well, yeah. I mean,
WCW did, and
they changed his character though in WWE.
Yeah. So I mean, they built him, because before WWE, what was he? The Hollywood Blondes. I mean,
part of the Hollywood Blondes. Yeah, he was Steve.
No disrespect, obviously, but
right. He was always Steve Austin.
Who knows them as Who knows them?
He went from the Hollywood Blondes to, don't forget, he was the ringmaster.
Yeah, the ringmaster. That's right.
To then Stone Cold.
But he was the ringmaster as the $1 Million Champion, right?
Yeah, he was the ringmaster with Ted DiBiase. I think, but what I was going to say is too, the other issue with what I was going to go is, yes, WWE kept AJ Styles a star, but I read this thing, or I saw this interview from AJ Styles that was basically saying when he came into WWE, Vince actually wanted to change his name and change his character. The reason they couldn't is because if you look, not that it's hard to notice, but like if you've ever like paid attention, he has a big AJ tattoo. So it's hard to say like, oh, your name is now Butch, but I have an AJ tattoo on my ribs. So they really had no.
I can just imagine Vince, that conversation. So how attached are you to that tattoo?
To get it lasered off. Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like, would he have, if he hadn't had that tattoo and they had actually done what they wanted and changed his name or changed his character because they didn't want to have to recognize his previous life, right. Is he still that world champion? Is he still that star?
Yeah.
That's always been like the big knock on Vince is like, I get it. You're trying to say you're the best company in the world, but when people from the outside come in, you try to change what's worked for them instead of building off of it. So it's like it kind of it waters people down and they're quote unquote ruined.
And that's what I guess they have to do every time they switch to a different promotion, though, because you now have Claudio instead of Cesaro.
Right. Well, and a lot of that from WWE going to the outside, a lot of it is all like rules, copyright thing, right? A lot of copyright things. That's why, like, when Razor Ramon, the bad guy, went to WCW. There was like a whole big lawsuit because like even though he wasn't called Razor Ramon anymore, he was still doing like for a few weeks doing like the Cuban gimmick and like doing all of these things. And Vince was like, "Hey, yeah, you're not calling him Razor, but like everyone clearly knows it's Razor. Like you have to change that shit up." So it's like from WWE going to the outside, it makes sense. But like a lot of the smaller companies where the guys are coming from the indies or like from TNA or from Ring of Honor, it's like coming to WWE.
It's funny because they do that in NXT. They let them bring up their, like, from their indies name, don't they?
Sometimes. I mean, they'll even do that on the main roster because, like, even though the names are different, like with Carl, or the names are kind of the same, but with like Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, like they do reference the fact that, like, hey, yeah, these guys are some of the best in the world because they've won however many championships in New Japan. With AJ Styles, I don't think they've ever mentioned, they'll say like he's won championships around the world, but they'll never specifically mention TNA World Championship, but they'll say like, hey, he was the IWGP World Championship. So like it's weird almost to an extent the way that WWE is willing to bring up international companies and say like, hey, this person was the biggest star in that company.
Yeah.
But then they won't say like, yeah, they came from Ring of Honor and they were the best there ever was in that company.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you might have said this last time, maybe that'll change with if there's a new direction coming, and who knows?
Yeah, it's.
I guess we'll find out.
It will be interesting. And I mean, I don't want to get this too long. I think we should only we only but I think what I think is going to be
again, if you are still listening this long.
I think one of the other big things that's going to dictate the future of WWE is like, obviously, Stephanie McMahon is in, and I recently found out she's only in as co-CEO. I'll get to that in a second. Stephanie McMahon is in as co-CEO. Triple H is now officially back as the executive vice president of talent relations, or whatever his previous title was. He's officially back. He's healed, thankfully, all that good stuff. So he's back. But the issue is a lot of people, someone that was close to Vince McMahon is this guy, I almost said Tony Khan, who's the owner of AEW. There's another Khan, I can't think of his first name right now, who's the other co-CEO of WWE. And a lot of people have gripes with him because he's a big Vince supporter. He's kind of like a yes man to Vince. So with him being co-CEO, I wonder how the division of power is going to get split up. And I wonder how that's going to.
It will still be good to have somebody with like Vince's perspective coming in to balance out like.
So I get
you want to still keep it because clearly it was successful for a reason. So you want to still.
I get what you're saying, and I would agree. My concern is, and I don't know if you'll necessarily know.
Have an original thought of his own.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if you'll know the name, but a similar concept happened in the 90s. There was a head writer of, at the time, WWF in the late 90s was this guy, Vince Russo. He then applied to be an executive and take over from Eric Bischoff in WCW, being like, oh, hey, look at all of this content that I've written for WWF. You should hire me. I'm clearly this great, creative mind. He went into WCW. He made himself the world champion. He made, he made David Arquette the world champion. Right. He created Judy Bagwell on a pole match on a forklift match. My concern, and Vince, if you're listening, I don't give a shit. Come after me. You weren't this great person, and I know there's plenty of people that don't like you either. So whatever. But so my only concern with this other guy, I can't think of his first name, but this other Khan that is the co-CEO of WWE now, is that he's going to be similar to Vince Russo, where it's like he's never had his, as you said, he's never had his own idea, and he's only just been a yes man to Vince. So it's like, all right, now the company's going to go down the toilet. So hopefully,
Stephanie, yeah.
Yeah. So the hope is
you have the other people too,
right? So the hope is that Stephanie has the right power in the right places.
Yeah, and I feel like she would.
You would hope so. It's the quote unquote family business.
Right.
Her grandfather started it.
Even just the last name would kind of
exactly
more give her have people agree with her more than him.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you for listening in to the D-Generation Y podcast episode.
Good topics for next time.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Going for how long?
Yeah, if you're still listening, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it and you're still listening for some reason, leave us a comment. Let us know why you didn't enjoy it. But, we'll see you next time. Have a good night, everyone.